Guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm not going to lie, it has been a minute, and today we've got Dr. Karan. I'm going to say Dr. Karan, because that's how your family would say it, right?
Yeah.
How would your patients say it?
Well, listen, I think I introduce myself as, I'm Karan. I'm one of the doctors here, one of the surgeons here.
Yeah.
But I'll say that most people in Western-speaking countries, Caucasian people, might not be able to pronounce those foreign-sounding names.
Yeah.
And that's because, someone who's born and brought up in the UK or the USA,
Yeah.
who is, Caucasian, mainly is born and brought up speaking English,
Yeah.
they don't speak other languages from birth. They kind of learn them over time. So sometimes there's certain syllables and ways that you contort your tongue. It's difficult to do that sound. Like, your name, it's not Diran, it's Diran.
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 Diran, yeah.
So, those kind of ways you twist and turn your tongue come from speaking those other languages sometimes.
So when you were saying Caucasian, for immigrants that are listening and all the hood man, it means the white man. The white guys. That's what it meant.
Because I speak Hindi, Tamil, and English. And I would say I'm like 95% fluent in German. I did that throughout.
Shut up.
Yeah, I lived there for a couple of months in Munich and in Berlin on an exchange. And I've did it throughout school. And I still can keep in touch with my mates there. I speak to them in German. So between those four languages, I find myself, I can like move my mouth in those ways almost. It helps.
Guten Tag.
Ja, ich muss mein Deutsch üben, um meine Sprache zu verbessern, aber ja.
Ja, this isn't to you, but ich ficke deine Mutter.
Schwanz kaputt.
Hohensohn, Scheiße. Of obviously Turks. There's a lot of Turks in Germany. There's like 3 million.
Yeah,
there's like 3 million.
I think it's one of the
Turks.
biggest ethnic minorities in Germany, isn't it?
Yeah, it is mad. So obviously today, like when we were texting before, like you came in, you're like, Diran, like, I remember last time we were together at IFS, it was like the doctors versus trainers, personal trainers panel. Yeah. You were like looking to cancel everyone there. What's going on? We're not going to do that today. So I thought today, let's just start off with, what's your view on Andrew Tate? No, I'm joking.
Bro, top G, Let's not get into that.
No. You know what's funny though? How many people ask you that, right? How many people? I've had so many people ask me about this guy, right?
You know what? Without going into that whole can of worms, because I'm not interested in that particularly,
Same,
on air.
Yeah.
But, I will say one thing purely from like a social media point of view. I would honestly say like he has built this crazy cult following in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
It's like he's rewritten the social media playbook, right?
Yeah.
How many videos of him do you see online? And I was talking to one of my mates yesterday who's also on social media, and we were saying if he wasn't deplatformed and like removed from all these platforms, in 5 years, the way he was growing on like Twitter, Instagram, all these live streams, he might be up there with Mr. Beast in a few years. And he's got this, anyone on social media, the number one thing that they would want beyond just, numbers and making money is actually building a community. And, Andrew Tate, for better or for worse, he built a hardcore community.
Yeah, bruv, he's built a bit of an army, if I'm being honest, And it is kind of crazy. And listen, you can't be stupid and do that. The guy's obviously smart to like one way or another. He's a very smart individual that's got there, however he's got there. But I think just like anyone else that gets that far with social media, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the back end that I think a lot of people don't see. But I guess with any level of power, like yourself and I, we have influence on people naturally. So if you're in a position like he is, you got to be careful, I guess, with what you say, because it can impact people. And no matter what you say, there's always going to be positives and negatives, because there's always going to be people that agree and people that don't agree. But let's move away from that. Let's move away from that.
Quickly.
Because I only brought that up because that's like a hot topic.
That is a hot topic.
Everyone gets nervous about. Like,
anyone that talks about Andrew Tate or brings him into conversation, like they do that with the point of trying to be controversial and try to go viral,
That's, you know what? Talking about that, I'm someone that's done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm someone that's done that for like...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm someone that's done that. And I'd like to think it's for a positive impact. I would say 90% of it is very positive.
Mm.
But what do you think about that? Like with social media, I honestly feel like it's gone to a negative space, man. I feel like everyone now is just posting just to be controversial. There isn't anything organic or authentic or people just being themselves. I actually think people no longer know how to be themselves. Do you know what I mean?
You know, I completely agree. I think, you know, you build this online persona when you're in front of the camera. It's like, you know, a light switch going on. The camera goes on, hit record. You become a different person in a sense. The way your tone, your accent, maybe your mannerisms.
Yeah.
You know, this is not how I would speak on camera. I would do it myself. I'm not saying that it's everyone else. I do that as well. You probably do it to some degree as well. But I think, it's strange because there's this new thing. Because TikTok has blown up and there's never been a platform quite like TikTok. There was Vine, but it died. That was only 7 seconds. TikTok has made social media even more clickbaity in a sense because you've got 2 or 3 seconds to do something outrageous to catch someone's attention.
Agreed.
I saw a video recently on TikTok where some guy was trying to promote his movie or something that he directed and acted in. And he was a good-looking guy. So for the first 5 seconds, he just did thirst traps. So everyone would watch, all the girls would watch. And then he was like, okay, you guys happy with that? Okay, now watch my movie. And he was talking about his movie. Because he knew if he promoted his movie from second one, it would bomb. That video wouldn't get any views. But getting the thirst trap to lure people to watching the rest, that works. So it kind of distorts the whole point of disseminating information these days because you almost feel that you've got to do a bait and switch almost, you know?
Yeah, it's mad because you remember like back in the day, when I say back in the day, obviously I'm not that old, I'm 30. How old are you, by the way?
32.
32, okay, cool. So like, you know, back in the day when you would find a piece of content or you would like go on your mum and dad's computer and the AOL sound will come on and then you'll search something and like you'll pay full attention.
Yeah.
And you'll really pay attention and you'll probably learn from it and it'll probably be like a long haul piece of content or a video or music or whatever it is, right? Now, because everything is so saturated and there's so much of it everywhere, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube Reels, YouTube Shortcut, Shorts, all of that stuff. Because there's so much, I feel like we're going from real long haul content that we could pay attention to. Now our attention span is getting way worse and way worse and way worse to now where if nothing is engaging within 3 to 4 seconds, which I know as well, because I'm fucking scrolling past on TikTok when I don't find whatever's snappy, how are we supposed to learn anything?
You know what the mad thing is? Like, I would like to think of myself as a man of science.
Yeah.
But sometimes I like to get just a little bit deep. And this is probably one of the most deeply philosophical things that is also rooted in neuroscience. So your reality right now is, you could say, somewhat of a hallucination from your brain. Okay. It's a projection of your brain, right? Without your brain, you don't see, hear, feel, touch. And your reality right now, you looking at me being in this studio, sitting on that sofa, it is heavily filtered. Your reality is heavily filtered.
Okay.
Because I would say a small percent of what your senses capture, the visuals, the sounds, the touch, that is all filtered. So your brain gives you just what you need to know. Your brain needs to know that you're sitting on solid ground, that you're talking to me, the lights are at, this intensity. There's all this other information that's discarded and dumped in your subconscious, right? If you were to be given 100% of all the information that your senses captured, it would be overwhelming. You'd go insane.
Yeah. Okay.
So what happens is all that excess information that's filtered away gets dumped in your subconscious, and that's part of your gut instinct, and it's stored in your memory banks. Yeah. So when you're scrolling on social media, everything, all that information that you're smashing towards itself is going into your subconscious. So you're constantly taking in information. Yeah. So somewhere, like the example I gave of that video right now, I didn't pay attention to it really, but I was just scrolling through it, but I'm still remembering it because it's just there in your memory. So everything we consume goes into us, and that's not always a good thing because that adds constant micro stresses. You're thinking you're on social media for 2 hours. At the end of that 2 hours, why do you feel bad? You've got all these micro stresses of 2 hours worth of crap going into your subconscious, which leaks into your conscious.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I feel like because all of that information we're constantly taking in, and just like you said, those micro stresses and all of that stuff, all those things are added. I only notice when I really pull myself away from these things, i.e. when I'm more in nature, going for a walk first thing in the morning when there isn't much people around, or taking myself and my friends away somewhere, potentially for like a mushroom trip or whatever it is, right?
Do what you got to do.
And I've always noticed, like, when I go to like my dad's village, right, and I talk to older people, I'm always thinking like, how do these people become so wise? How? They don't have much information.
Yeah.
How do they become so wise? And it obviously has to be something from within them or their experiences and their environment, right? And I feel like because it's so saturated now, no one is actually living within their own experience. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
You made a really interesting point there. And, mentioned about in your dad's village in Turkey, why are these people who don't have access to information so wise? And that is where we fall down. So, for example, you're doing the dishes, you're listening to a podcast. You're doing something banal, something mundane, you're bored. You try to fill that boredom with something. But actually, boredom is good because it allows your brain to defocus and wonder. And that wandering of the brain promotes creativity. We're not allowing that to happen because we're always trying to fill that superficial boredom with something. Allow yourself to be a little bit bored.
Yes. You know what's funny as well? You say that, and one of my friends, he's his name's Nas Neuro, he's a neuroscientist as well, and he was like, Darren, our brains, and this is a guy I do jiu-jitsu with, like, I'm sitting with him on the side after we're choking each other out, and he's like, Darren, our brains are made to be bored.
Yeah.
He's like, that's when you get like your creative moments, like you just said. And I guess for people that's listening to this or watching this, I guess it's those moments where you're in the shower where you're not thinking about much. You're like, bing, I've got an idea for that.
You have your best ideas when you're doing something boring. You're driving to work. You're in the shower. You're cooking. That is when you have your best ideas because your brain has nothing else to focus on. And it's just like thinking about other things. And that is how creativity is born.
How do we pull ourselves away from that though? Because like now we're so... I feel like a lot of people rely on it in the sense of even some people, I wouldn't say I'm not a very awkward person. Like it takes a lot to really get me awkward. I can probably sit in a room with a stranger and just stare at them and not say a word, right? But I feel like most people can't.
Yeah.
I feel like most people can't just sit with their friends and not say anything or not do nothing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas it has to be consistently filled with bullshit. Really? How do we move away from that? From that?
I think it's one of the things, how to, enjoy boredom is doing something that fills you with awe. And actually, that is one of the most underrated things that you can do for your brain that slows neurodegeneration, slows the decay of the brain and offsets and reduces the risk of things like Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative conditions. It's having awe. And if you look at,
what do you mean by that? What is that? Sorry.
So that is as simply as going into nature.
Okay.
Filling yourself with awe-inducing experiences. They've done studies where they look at factors which reduce the risk of dementia and neurodegeneration. Right? There's the obvious things. Exercise is good for the brain, improves blood flow, etc. Sleep, it clears away all the toxic proteins, etc. Having social interactions with other people, that is good for the brains. Humans are social creatures.
Yeah.
Another thing, which is underrated but backed in science, is having that awe. And that awe can be as simple as going for a walk or a hike in nature or just doing something which just is a deeply profound experience.
Yeah. You know what? It's mad. I feel like humanity has come to a place where that is no longer acknowledged at all and they don't see the value in it. Okay. And I feel like that everyone's overcomplicating things because they think to be happy or healthy or fit or strong, things need to be complicated. When I think they're actually very simple, but most people, they don't like doing the boring things or they simply can't. Their brain can't function like that. Therefore, they avoid it. And what happens when you avoid it? You consistently seek unnecessary things. And next minute, you're driving yourself mad. You're sinking yourself with alcohol. You're doing drugs nonstop and now you have anxiety. I don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? So like society's going to, I think the pendulum is like,
it's swinging the other way. And exactly what you mentioned right there, we're looking for, something to patch up a hole, quick fixes. And that is now completely epitomized by, supplements. For example, magnesium supplements, there is evidence in the scientific literature that it can help you with sleep. Yeah. Right? And it does. I've tried it myself and it does help me with sleep. Yeah. But if you're taking magnesium supplements and hoping that's going to make you sleep better without doing the basics, sleep hygiene, like not watching TV before bed, not winding down, not having a dark room or a cold environment, magnesium is not going to turn that around.
Yeah.
It's going to optimize you once you've already optimized all the other facets of good sleep. So people want that as a quick fix. Okay, take steroids to quickly build muscle. Take this vitamin to, completely compensate for my shitty diet.
Yeah.
No, you need to do the basics and the boring stuff.
Yeah, it's the same. I get the same with nutrition and fitness. It's the same, and it's kind of sad. I honestly think I see some of these like fitness influencers making like, honestly, bro, some of them are making like $1 million a month.
What? $1 million a month,
mate? $500,000 a month. Honestly, it's crazy.
I'm laughing because I'm crying inside. Yeah. It's mad.
And you know what? I'm thinking, why am I not making that? Why am I not doing that? Because what I'm giving people doesn't sell as much.
Well, the basic thing. It's an intangible asset. You're giving someone a change in their mindset, lifestyle, all these sort of things. And that is priceless, a community.
Yeah. And it honestly sometimes makes me sad. Over the last last year was pretty fucking crazy, like for me. And you saw IFS. When I saw your IFS, we were like, me and Smith were touring a lot. Yeah. I did my first ever UK tour. We did Smith's tour and I supported him on his tour. We had IFS, we had talks in Dubai, we did this.
You look tired.
Bruv, I was dead, bruv. And I'm not gonna lie, only recently being home, I can probably say I've got regularity back in my sleep. And I feel like everything is functioning properly, including my fucking penis. Like, not that there was any problems before, but like, everything, I just feel so much fucking better with sleep and the simple things. And I've actually been doing my best, and I would actually recommend people to do this, is to bring things back to basics. When we're traveling and stuff and all this stuff, you see it, from the attention from people, the nice dinners, the drinks, people, attention, nice flights, this, that, nice cars, nice restaurants, beach clubs. Yeah, this shit really numbs people, man. And I see it. And I got to like a position where I was like, what's going on? And I was like, I need to pull things back as much as I can, because like, Darren, you didn't start this journey. Remind yourself why you started for that. You didn't start from that. You started because you want to help your family. You want to support your family. You want to be something out of your family, you know? And I've been doing things to bore myself. And that has actually made me so much better mentally
as well. Yeah,
my car got stolen, innit? Wow. Bought a brand new Range Rover. My car got stolen, and I live in like SW, and I train in Hammersmith. I do jiu-jitsu in Hammersmith. I've been walking to Hammersmith from my house without like headphones. Yeah, and just like looking at the floor, bruv.
That's probably quite handy to just de-stress.
And it was so. I can't tell you how my mind is so much more relaxed just by like completely not listening to music. Every now and then I listen to a podcast or whatever, but like blocking things out and trying to bring myself back to as
real life.
Yes.
Out of the matrix.
Out of the matrix, bro. It is. And then, you know what I thought, and you might agree with this, and I was like, oh, this is what my granddad must feel in the mountain looking at nothing, bro.
Just bored as hell, but happy.
Yes.
But you mentioned like when you're overwhelmed, you strip things back to the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, about your penis. I don't need to talk about your penis specifically, but for if
if something was wrong, bruv, I'll be asking.
Yeah,
I'll be like, Doctor, what's going on,
Snapchat.
bruv? For anyone that doesn't know, I'm messaging. I'm like, hey, big man, I've got this situation. Can you help me out with that? It wasn't STDs, all right? It wasn't anything like that.
For example, imagine like, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or some sort of issue in the bedroom.
Yeah.
There could be a number of things, both psychological and physiological. Something wrong with the actual biology itself, low testosterone. But more often than not, one of the most common causes of things like erectile dysfunction is psychological, the stress. Stress raises, cortisol, one of the stress hormones, which is useful in short bursts. Yeah. But when it's prolonged release, when it's constantly released and chronically released, that can have negative impacts on various things. If you're having poor sleep actually increases the amount of anti-sperm antibodies. These are antibodies which your body produces that attack sperm and lowers your sperm count if you're not sleeping enough.
Bruv, I swear to you, since my sleep has been better after touring and everything, my balls have felt bigger.
Yeah, because you got more testosterone.
I swear to God, bruv.
Yeah.
I swear down one day,
You know, your coin purse is full.
One day, I was like, raw. And then I grabbed them. I was like, oh, they're back.
Yeah.
They're back. They're back because my sleep was so bad, mate. 1 week in Australia, from London to Australia, in 10 days, did over 70 hours of flying.
That's mad.
Bro, I was in like 6 or 7 different time zones.
Yeah, no matter how good your sleep is, you can't overcome that.
You can't. And I was like, what's going on? And mate, my head space wasn't like, I'm okay, but I wasn't my usual self.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's happening? And sleep is 100%.
Bro, if you're like just a week of poor sleep where you're sleeping maybe less than 5 hours a night can actually cause testicular atrophy. Your testicles will actually shrink in size, which also means less testosterone production, poorer quality sperm, all those kind of things. So I'm not surprised your balls grew once your sleep got better.
Bruv, legit. Clip that.
Viral.
Clip that. Every man now with like a dick problem is sleeping all day.
Sleep and stress.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Both underrated components. And it's a vicious cycle. You're stressed, you don't sleep well. You don't sleep well, you're more stressed. And it's hard to break yourself out of that. So stripping it down to the bare basics. Okay, make sure that I'm eating enough fiber. Make sure, my toilet routine is good.
Yeah.
Basics, bro. You don't need to be, okay, I need to read 3 books this week, or I need to do this. Productivity can be toxic. It's even called toxic productivity, where you're constantly comparing yourself. Okay, I need to read a book a week. I need to listen to this podcast. I need to listen to Andrew Huberman and follow all of his tips.
Oh, bro.
Just
you know what?
It down to the basics.
I'm going to say this now, I'm probably going to get some hate for it, but I don't give a fuck. Obviously, for what you do, you had to read a certain amount of books, right? You had to study a certain amount.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I had to do it.
Okay, you had to do it, right? I'm so sick of this reading culture at the minute where I'm like, I'm reading 3 books at the moment. I'm like, why don't you read one and actually apply what the fuck you're reading instead of reading 100 things and don't actually take action on anything? Oh, I remember this book said, on this book, someone quoted that blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what do you think about the actual situation?
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't read. This isn't my excuse of not reading. I'm not a great reader anyway. But I personally learn so much more when I'm talking to say like someone like yourself. I'll take away more from this podcast, what I'll learn off you than I probably would to go off and read for a week, if I'm being honest. But what I'm saying is I feel like even that pressure that you mentioned, people go into this phase of like they consistently need to improve because they think by looking at the people on social media that are so fucking productive, waking up with their ready prep meal and they're doing their reels where they split the fucking egg into a walk and then back in, hey, I was so productive. I read a book. I trained this morning. I meditated for 15 fucking minutes. Everyone's like, Duran, that's you, bruv. But like, and now everyone feels that fucking pressure and nothing actually comes out of it, right? It's just like, pressure for no reason instead of like living in that moment, I guess. I don't know.
I agree. I think you learn so much by being in the presence of someone else who has different life experiences. In a lot of ways, we're similar. You know, we're kind of, ethnic minorities. You know, we have cultural, traditional values which are similar between our cultures. And a lot of ways we're different in terms of our upbringing, jobs we do, interactions, etc. So we learn a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to say this place is in Holland. I'm not entirely sure, but there is a library where instead of checking books out, you can check people out almost.
Shut up.
You can go and talk to a monk. You take a book out about meditation. No. You can choose to like spend, a certain number of minutes or hours speaking to someone and enjoy and learn from their life experiences. That's mad.
That
is
is sick. That is wicked.
I need to confirm where exactly it's from, but that's such a great concept.
Go. No, sorry. What I was going to say is, and because like human interaction is getting less and less, people are like actually struggling to even hold a conversation.
I mean, during the pandemic, when there was persistent, recurrent lockdowns, one of the main things that people lacked in their lives, apart from being outside, were the social interactions. It's okay having the social interactions on Zoom or WhatsApp or whatever, but you need that physical contact, in-person contact. And the rise and the amount of, stress-related incidents there were and the psychological impact that pandemic had when we were away from our loved ones and friends and family was very, very profound.
Yeah.
Because we're human, we're humans, we're social creatures. We thrive on social interactions. We need that burst of oxytocin that you get from being in someone's company.
Yeah, company, a touch, a hug, a kiss, whatever it is.
Our brain just lights up with all those interactions.
100%. And I think people just need to do their best to get uncomfortable with having some conversations that you wouldn't usually ask. And I think strangers are the perfect people for this,
Yeah.
When we're out and about, and James and Lima will tell you, I'm pretty good at just approaching people and talking to them literally about anything. And I find it easier than approaching people that I know, because there's zero expectations from others that don't know you. Therefore, you can say whatever the fuck you want. That person can judge you. You don't know them well enough to care.
Yeah.
And that has built some mad resilience where I literally just approach any fucking person and talk about anything. And from that, you'll be surprised in how many good people you meet, how many cool people that can actually help you with your own journey.
Yeah, why not? Because it's almost like you're confessing in that church little confession box, the little sin box where you can't see the person and just say, yeah, I did this, this, and this, because you're not seeing the person, you don't know them, you don't lose anything, you're never going to see them again, so you can say anything and do anything.
Yeah.
So you can literally get all that off your chest.
Yeah. With yourself, how many patients would you say, you probably don't know exact accurate, but how many people that you see and the things that you help cure or identify are caused by stress, lack of sleep, and just general simple stuff that people should be doing that has caused potential illnesses?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say, like you said, to put a specific number on what percentage of disease and pathology is caused by stress.
Yeah.
I would argue, yes, there is a significant number of things, but it's less likely to be the things I deal with. For example, a hernia, appendicitis, and bowel cancer and things like that is not because of stress.
Okay.
All right. But there are things that I deal with which can be worsened by stress. For example, if someone has an inflammatory bowel condition, all right, or has irritable bowel syndrome, or has something wrong with their bowels, constipation or whatever, diarrhea, loose stool, sometimes that can be exacerbated and worsened by stress.
Okay.
Because we know that the mind has a very strong connection to the gut.
Yeah.
So if you're stressed, that can result in looser stool. Sometimes it results in constipation, irritable bowels, all these kind of things. So we know that there is a connection between the gut and the brain. So, your mood can, in some ways, dictate your body because of the gut microbiome and things like that. And I would say more so the stress-driven diseases, or at least diseases which are worsened by states of stress, would be things like cardiovascular diseases, breathing-related issues. If you're stressed, your breathing rate goes up. If you're constantly stressed, your blood pressure is going to be higher, which can lead to cardiovascular disease, increase your risk of strokes and other things like that. So there's a huge amount of mental wellness which is needed for physical wellness, but it goes both ways. If your body is physically not optimized, you're not sleeping well, you're not pooing well, you're not getting a wide range of nutrients in your diet, that will impact your mood, and your mood will then impact your physical health worse. So again, vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle. And how do we take action on stopping? What's the what would be what advice would you give in the most simple way to get someone to be address something? Say if I had, I don't know, IBS and I came to you and you can see that it's caused by stress, what would you say to me or to someone that's having the same issue? Because it's actually very common, isn't it?
Very common, yeah. Irritable bowel syndrome is one of the most common bowel conditions, and it is definitely a diagnosis of exclusion. If someone comes in with, they're sometimes constipated, sometimes got loose stool, they get bloated, their bowels are just all over the place, I wouldn't first think, you got irritable bowel. Yeah. I would make sure you got nothing else really serious. I'd make sure it's not a bowel cancer. You're not got, inflammatory bowel disease. You've got an inflammation of your colon or something, or anything seriously worrying that needs surgery or some medication. Once all that is ruled out, and I know after tests and investigations that it's just irritable bowel syndrome, I would then look at your diet and other lifestyle factors. And sometimes I take longer than my colleague who's also doing a clinic, because I've realized more and more, and especially being on social media, that's highlighted it for me, I take longer and sometimes I do overrun, because I sometimes like to ask them about these other things as well. You know, when you're talking to someone with irritable bowel, it's very easy to tell them, okay, start this low FODMAP diet. So, you know, avoid onions and garlic and this like that, okay? Because that will trigger your symptoms. Yeah. It's very easy to say, okay, that is the thing you need to do.
Yeah.
But actually, let me spend an extra 5 minutes asking you, how good is your sleep? How good is your, you know, other things going on in your life? It takes longer, but taking longer in that one instance is going to help me and help that patient long term, because they're not going to keep coming back to me with the same problem.
You're building rapport.
You're building rapport. And when I follow them up in weeks or months, they're in a better place. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to see you again. You know, in the best intention, I feel better. I don't want to see you again.
Yeah.
Good.
I guess sometimes with, I guess maybe you'd know better with a lot of doctors, maybe by giving a pill to fix something, they don't really dive deep like you have, asking more questions to actually see the root of the problem.
I used to be the pill pusher.
Oh, really? Okay.
I still give medications and prescribe medications to patients. Yeah. Pain relief, anti-sickness, you know, you prescribe anti-inflammatory drugs, whatever. They're needed, antibiotics.
Yeah.
Many of them are life-saving, don't get me wrong. But a lot of the medications, we have to understand that they are stopgaps.
Okay.
When I prescribe something to someone, it might be a stopgap or a bridge to something else. What is the end result? You know, if someone comes in with hemorrhoids, for example, and they're saying that the hemorrhoids are painful and itchy, the simple solution there is giving them some creams to stop the itching. And okay, we'll do surgery and we'll chop out your hemorrhoids. Done. But no, hemorrhoids can still come back after surgery if you don't fix the underlying problem. You need to stop straining on the toilet. You need to increase your fiber, increase your fluid intake, both soluble and insoluble fiber. You need to actually sit in a bit more of a squatting position, because the Western toilet is literally a death trap for your bowels. Right?
Yeah.
So all these kind of things, you need to fix the root causes of your hemorrhoids. Otherwise, you'll come back to me 3 months after surgery saying, I've got hemorrhoids again. You didn't do anything. So actually, like you said, prescribing pills is an essential part of being a doctor, but looking at the root causes of various problems is equally important.
Bruv, you must see some madness at your job. You must see some absolute how stressful is your work? Because you're doing a lot of stuff on social media at the moment, and like your content is so like, bruv, and you as a human, like, bruv, I like you. You got good energy. Like, you know, you can usually tell when someone's, because don't get me wrong, sometimes people can be as smart as you are and be really arrogant about it, and you can't even hold a conversation with them because you just don't like it. It's very easy.
I know many of these people. Okay. Many of these people are my friends, and many of these people have been, you know, growing up with me at medical school.
Okay.
And, you know, they are really, really smart people, way, way smarter than me.
Yeah.
Like, way better. They've published more, they've operated more, they've just experienced more, and they're just better. Their brains are better than mine for medicine.
Yeah.
But yeah, often they might lack these social things. And listen, I'll tell you something, right? Just because you are book smart does not make you a good doctor.
Okay.
I would like to say, objectively, from the feedback I've got over the years, every year doctors have to get revalidation. And that means doing courses, getting feedback from your colleagues, nurses, junior doctors, senior doctors, the secretaries, everyone.
Yeah.
And my feedback's always been good. Like, he's nice to work with, he's smart, he's good with patients, whatever. It's always been good. So I like to think of myself as like a good doctor. Am I the best doctor in the world? No. Am I the worst doctor in the world? Also no. So I'm a good doctor.
You're one of the most known.
Well.
And that says something, you know, that's got to do with, like, from your communication skills and the way, like, you do your content and the way you talk to people has made you give more impact than technically a smarter
Maybe,
doctor. You know what I mean? So,
I've always said that. I think, you know, the impact I can have from 1-2 videos on social media can be far greater for the broader population than, you know, 1 3-hour clinic I have where I see 10 patients. And, you know, you can become a good doctor from just actually experience. Like, you know, the things I see on a daily basis are sometimes horrendous. And I'm so desensitized to this trauma. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. 3 weeks ago, in one day, in the morning, I was on call. So like 12-hour shift.
Yeah.
We start at 8, finish at 8:30 p.m., maybe 9 p.m. Just as I was walking to the handover room, the crash bell goes off. So someone's having probably a cardiac arrest. Their heart stopped. They're dead, technically.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Right? Run there. And then we're like pumping his chest for, several minutes. All doctors are there, loads of nurses there. And that is a stressful situation. I've not even started my shift, but I hear that bell. So we all run there. There's about 15 people there. Doctors, nurses, physios, secretaries, like the healthcare assistants, everyone there. It's a manic scene. The patient does, their heart restarts and they're taken to the intensive care unit. And then we start the handover. The first thing that someone tells me is, okay, we've got a major laparotomy that you need to do first up. A laparotomy is a major surgery. We basically cut someone from their breastbone down to their pubic bone. You zip them open like a suitcase, right? They've got dead bowel. So that's a 3-hour operation. We're cutting out some dead bowel and then, we plumb the two ends of the bowel back together.
Oh, my days. 1 sec.
And so by the time all those two things have happened, it's about midday. Yeah. I'm getting a bit hungry now because I've not had breakfast.
Yeah.
I want to have some lunch, but I can't because there's other stuff going on in the ward. I've got to finish the ward round. So about 30, 40 patients I need to see.
Yeah.
They might have their own problems. And then, I get an angry call from someone in the emergency room because one of my juniors has got into a little altercation with another junior doctor. So I've got to go settle that out. That's also stressful for me.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't want my team getting stressed and on this and that. So constantly there's stress throughout the day. And bro, that is like maybe a chill day. I've seen some horrific stuff that I don't even know if it's safe to tell you.
Really? A question. When you're cutting someone up.
Yeah.
Is your mind do you have any hesitation?
So
your hand must be so steady, bruv. Imagine that. What's that feeling like of going, okay, that's some Viking shit, bruv.
Before I tell you about that,
okay.
I will say on the question of steady hands, I used to work for a breast surgeon who literally had a tremor in his hand like that. But as soon as he was operating, cutting, he was like, boom,
really?
Still steady. His hand was steady.
Wow.
So he had an essential tremor.
Okay.
And patients used to genuinely get worried when they saw him. He'd be like, okay, so we got to remove this cancer and do this. They were worried. And one patient even asked me, should I go and see another surgeon? I was like, no. This guy
building report, okay, so what we're gonna do?
Yeah, your skull will be like that.
Yeah.
No, so this guy, he was a sick surgeon, top level breast surgeon.
Yeah.
Because when the lights were on, camera rolling, he was slick because that focus allowed the tremor to go away.
That's mad, isn't it?
Okay, but in terms of when I'm looking at bodies, inside bodies,
yeah.
I have a very unusual job compared to most jobs where I'm actually, dealing with life and death on a daily basis, and I've got my hands inside and around someone's guts.
Bro.
Right? That's mad. Just on the face of that one line, that's crazy.
That is mad, bro.
But I've been dealing with human bodies since year 1 of medical school. So year 1 of medical school.
Which was, how old were you?
18 years old.
Okay.
Right? At the age of 18, you're introduced to cadavers, dead bodies that are pickled in formaldehyde, preservative juice, and it stinks.
Oh,
and you're looking at these dead bodies. People have donated their bodies to science, to medicine. You've got these anatomy lessons. I used to have 1 or 2 anatomy lessons a week. So we've done from year 1, year 2, year 3, I'm doing anatomy. So I'm seeing everything. We're cutting open someone's abdomen. We're breaking open someone's chest. We're looking at the nerves in someone's arm or in their legs or in their brain. We're looking at their brain and dissecting it. So we're doing all of that from day 1. And then the biggest shock for me is when I was a 50-year medical student, I was assisting a surgeon for, a surgery on a real patient. And I revised all the anatomy and I was like, yeah, I know everything. I know if he quizzes me, I'll know everything. As soon as he made the cut, he hit a little blood vessel and that blood squirted into my eye. And I was like, it was a warm feeling. And I was like, all right, this is no dead body. This is real. I am now, whoa.
My days.
But when I'm looking at intestines and I see sometimes certain ducts and blood vessels and nerves will be so close to where I'm cutting or, cutting something or stitching something. I'm like, wow, a few centimeters here, a few millimeters here, that this guy could bleed out if I make an injury here. And actually, you get these intrusive thoughts on a daily basis. At the top of a cliff, you're like, what happens if I jumped off here? Or if you're holding a knife, you're like, what happened if I just stabbed this? You have these intrusive thoughts, right?
Of course, yeah.
I have these intrusive thoughts sometimes during surgery, oh my God, if I went there, this blood vessel would just do that. Or, oh my God, if I did that, this could go wrong. Or if that guy did this. I'm having these intrusive thoughts during surgery, but that actually safeguards me from doing the wrong thing. And that makes me hyper alert, hyper vigilant, hyper focused. Accidentally, actually, one time during surgery, I don't even know if I should tell you this, if I'm incriminating myself. I was finishing a night shift. My boss asked me, "Oh, can you just stay on a little bit and do these 2 appendixes? Can you remove these 2 appendixes from these 2 patients who've got appendicitis?" And because the other doctor who was taking over in the morning, he was busy doing other stuff.
Yeah.
I said, no problem. The night shift was okay. I wasn't that tired. I was like, okay, but maybe I just need like some coffee or something. I don't really drink coffee, but let me drink some coffee. One of my colleagues, and I just finished a night shift, right? I didn't even bring my toothbrush or anything because I didn't expect to be staying on at work.
Yeah.
And I wanted just something to like freshen up my mouth. So I asked my junior, "Oh, can I have some chewing gum?" He gave me some chewing gum, and I was like chewing it, had a little burning sensation in my throat, and I was like doing the operation, and suddenly out of nowhere, my eyes just like dilate. And I'm like, I see everything almost in like 4K zoom. I feel high right now. And I turned to my guy who's like holding the camera for the operation, assisting me. I'm like, what was in those, that chewing gum you gave me? He was like, oh, those were nicotine chewing gums.
Oh my days.
2 10 milligram nicotine chewing gums. And nicotine's a nootropic.
Okay, yeah.
It increases focus, alertness, and all these things.
Yeah.
So I was like super focused and I could see everything in more clarity than I can ever do it. And I finished these 2 cases. Each case took me just 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. I don't do appendixes. I don't remove an appendix in 15 minutes. It takes me about, maybe quickest I've done it is like 30 minutes.
Okay.
45 minutes usually, right? It took me 15 minutes because I was so alert and focused.
Did you feel sick after?
My heart, I could feel, I had palpitations, a little bit of sweating, dry, burning throat. And I'm like, no, this is dangerous, man.
That is.
Under the influence, kind of.
And how many days, like, with your position, you work with the NHS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many days are you like on and off? How does it work?
So yeah, we work in shift patterns. So every 4 or 5 weeks, I'll have like a period of on call. So it might be, so for example, this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm on night shifts from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. And I finish Monday morning. I'll have Tuesday off and I'll be back on normal shifts. So every few weeks, we'll be rotated in to do day shifts or night shifts, either weekend nights, weekday nights, weekend day shifts, weekday day shifts. It's constant, man. It feels like every time I just recover, I'm back on another on-call shift.
Is it hard to have a normal life?
Very hard to have a normal life. Over the years, I've missed friends' weddings. I've missed important family events. I've even missed my own birthday when my family booked a restaurant for 7:30, all right? And I thought I'd finish because I was assisting one of my bosses. This is many years ago.
Yeah.
I looked, and this is when I was just starting surgery. I didn't really understand how long an operation was just by the name of it.
Yeah.
So it was like a pelvic exenteration, right? For a rectal cancer recurrence. And that was the only surgery on his list. So I thought, just one surgery. I'll be done by midday and I can go home early, have dinner with my parents, sick. And the dinner was only booked at like 7:30.
So yeah.
But as soon as I scrubbed into this surgery, my boss looked at me and was like, I hope you've had breakfast, lunch, and dinner because we're going to be here all day. I'm like, what? Pelvic exenteration?
Yeah.
That can take like 15, 16, 17 hours. I was there from 8 a.m. to just past midnight. And I couldn't even like phone my parents to be like, I'm not making it to dinner.
Oh, snap.
They went to dinner. They had a sick dinner without me.
Okay.
I think
they celebrated for you.
Yeah, like, we're with you, yeah.
Is there something that you wish people understood about your job that is not like potentially said enough, or people don't? I think we do take it for granted sometimes. We don't realize how much we need people like you, if I'm being honest. I don't. Thank you. But like, I don't think we realize and I think we only realize when we're in trouble.
Yeah, it's like most things, right? You take your health for granted until your body starts to malfunction in a certain way. And then you're like, yo, why are my sinuses working properly? You sinuses, like, I think the thing is, right, one thing I've noted in my years of being a doctor and being a surgeon is that you need to respect time, you know, the power of time. I've seen patients come in and within 2-3 hours, they're dead. A few years ago, I admitted a young patient. She was like 25, 26, fit and healthy, no other medical conditions. She had an inflammation of her pancreas, pancreatitis.
Okay.
Pancreatitis has a 1% kill rate. The mortality of pancreatitis is up to 1%, right? If it's severe.
Okay.
She had like a moderate pancreatitis and she was a little bit sick. She had like tummy pain. We wanted to figure out the cause of the pancreatitis, whether it was due to alcohol excess or gallstones. And so we booked her for an ultrasound scan. Literally within like maybe the 5th or 6th hour of being an inpatient in the hospital, she was being brought down for the ultrasound department to get the scan. She suddenly had a cardiac arrest.
What?
And, she eventually recovered after maybe 10 minutes of her heart stopping. She went to the intensive care unit. 24 hours later, she was deteriorating more from a neurological point of view. Like she wasn't behaving normally and she wasn't responding normally to stimuli.
Yeah.
They did a CT scan and basically half her brain was dead on the CT scan. That's not compatible with life. And they withdrew care. And I just remember I was in the intensive care unit about to speak to the family and I'd just spoken to the brother and the father. And the brother was like crushed. And then the mother fell to the floor screaming. And that scream, I can still hear it now. It was a guttural scream, like the most basic, like human feeling. And that just saying it now gives me shivers because, we take health for granted and we act sometimes, we go through life like we're immortal. We're not.
We're not. Yeah.
And, I gave the example to you just when I was coming here. Say your parents are in your 60s.
Yeah.
You see your parents maybe, once or twice a year, Christmas and birthdays and whatnot. You might only have, based on average life expectancy, if you're seeing them twice a year, just another maybe 40 times to see them. Imagine seeing your parents, you've got an allotment of 40 more times you can see your parents and then they're gone. So don't take time for granted. Respect time and maximize it. Do what you want to. Do the things, don't wait. Just act on it right now.
I love that. I think I'd do my best to live like that.
Yeah.
And I think acting on things you want to do instead of waiting for the right time.
Yeah.
I think it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game that can end up like really affecting that can really affect your happiness,
It's better to regret something that you've done wrong than regret not doing it at all.
Yeah.
I've done loads of things in my life that I regret.
Yeah. Agree.
And I laugh about them now. It's an anecdote. But the things which my biggest regrets haunt me. And I'll tell you something I've not told anyone before. So I was very close to my paternal grandmother, my dad's mum.
Yeah.
Every summer, I used to go to India, chill with her. I used to play cards with her. I had a great relationship with her.
Yeah.
And she used to come sometimes in summers to the UK as well and stay at our house. And she taught me, all these Hindi and Tamil, taught me how to write, everything. Taught me like prayers and everything.
Yeah.
And, even when she was in India, I'd call her every day. My dad was close to her. He'd call her all the time and then give me the phone. Like, do you want to talk to, and I'd talk to her.
Yeah.
As I was in medical school, I think I was a 5th year medical student. I got busier and busier towards finals, and sometimes like my dad would be like, do you want to talk to Ajji, which is like his name, and I'd be like, no, I'm busy or whatever, because whatever, I'll talk to her tomorrow, whatever. Yeah. And one day I had done that. I was like, no, I'll talk later. I'm busy. I've got to do this coursework or something like that. The next day she was in the intensive care unit in India.
Yeah.
And it was during my medical school finals. That she was dying basically. And my dad flew out to, be with her and like, interact with her. And she was like kind of in and out of consciousness and things like that. And for me, that was the biggest thing is like literally this whole week I could have spoken to her and I said no. And I prioritized this work. And, this was one of the few people in the world that I loved.
Yeah.
And it still haunts me to this day. Like I would do anything to just get another 1 minute with my grandma and talk to her. Yeah. I would do anything. So that haunts me, that regret of not speaking to her. Why did I do that? Why did I prioritize this stupid coursework in medical school for that? But anyway, I was crying when she passed away. And my dad said, listen, she knows that you loved her
Yeah.
So don't even think once that, you missed this opportunity. Like you were a great grandson and she loved you loved her, that's it.
Yeah.
But that regret still is there.
No, I get you. I get it. And I think we do. And also I think with people like yourself and myself is, it's almost not the last of your culture. It's just, when you go back and chat to that person, it links you back to like your origin.
Yeah.
Right. So like, obviously you do that with your parents, but your parents are now in a Western world. So like they change. So when you go back home, like to where you're from, you're like, oh shit, this is maybe not so much that this is where I belong, but this is where my origin is from. I probably react to these things because of this, because of that. And when you don't spend enough time with it, it does sometimes scare me that, and I flew out to Turkey a few times recently just for that. I was like, every time I go see my grandparents now, they're like 96. Whoa. Like my grandma, both my granddads have passed away. My grandma's at the minute, one's like 96 and the other was like 95 or something. Ooh. And I'm like, every time I say bye, I'm like, I'm squeezing. I'm like, this could literally be the last time I see this person. And it is sad. And it is important that everyone, like, call your mum, call your dad. I don't understand. 100%. I don't understand what, like, the Western world sometimes with this sort of stuff, it goes to, like, you don't have to call your mum and organize fucking lunch on the 18th of fucking February at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Like, just go there and hang out with your fucking family.
Just
like,
chill.
Yeah, right? Just like hang out with your family.
Bro,
like,
I'm with my parents, like, for example, I'll just be in their house for the whole day. We might not even like talk. I'll just be around them. Yeah. I'll be working around them. I'll be making some food with my mom. I'll be like just watching, the Arsenal game with my dad.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. We're not talking about like, how do you feel? We're not doing a psychoanalysis session. We're just being in the presence of each other.
You know what? I think a lot of those times, I think those conversations are bullshit anyway. You know when someone's like, so I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they ask you something to see how you are. I'm not saying it's bullshit, but when you spend enough time with people that you love, those conversations naturally happen to you to not even get to that point. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you don't end up getting to the point where something needs to be addressed because you're constantly touching base. It's almost like going to the gym 3 days a week, so you never get to a problem where you're overweight. Yeah. Because you've always kind of like addressed it, I feel like people, just like with health, take things for granted. So take it to a certain extent before they take action on something. And again, like you said, someone gets ill in the family, then they start paying attention to it. Whereas call your mom, call your dad.
100%. Actually, like, I was thinking about this recently. So, in hospital, when we got something called a DNR form, do not resuscitate form.
Oh,
right?
Okay, yeah.
So what that means is basically if you sign that form saying that you do not want to be resuscitated, that means if you have a cardiac arrest, your heart stops, you don't want someone to do chest compressions and do CPR and bring you back from the brink, right? You just want to be dead and that's it. And that has its own dignity and whatever. Like, you feel that you're too unwell, you don't want to come back because, first of all, Hollywood has made all these myths. Like, CPR is not very successful. We're talking sometimes like single digits of success.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay,
it's not like, oh, that person's dead. Boom, boom, boom. Back to life. Right?
Oh, snap.
It's higher in people who are fit and healthy and are young. Like, sports person who collapses on a pitch. We've seen loads of footballers over the years have that. They have immediate CPR and they're back. Christian Eriksen's an example.
Yeah.
But the average person in hospital who've got medical conditions, 70, 80, 90 years old, it's not a high success rate, right?
Oh, wow.
And even if they get a pulse back and their heart restarts, that period of time where their heart was stopped, their brain was obviously starved of blood and oxygen. They could have brain damage and long-term disabilities. So, we often have these discussions with patients in hospital about do not resuscitation and etc. Doesn't mean that we're going to stop all treatment. It just means if you die, we're not going to try to restart your heart. And too often, we're having these discussions with patients and family once it's almost too late, once the patient is so sick. For example, like a patient is maybe deteriorating and got maybe 24, 40 hours to live. That's when we, call the relatives in and they have a discussion about their end of life plans and this and that. We should be thinking about death now. Let's have a good relationship with death now. Let's be open and comfortable talking about death. What do you want? When you're, in hospital at the age of 90 or whatever, God forbid, if that happens to you, what do you want? Do you want resuscitation? Do you want CPR? Or do you just want to go out and then live your life? We need to have those discussions now, not when you're having that issue.
Agreed. And I think, people just...
Let's talk about death.
Yeah.
That's it.
100%. And you know what? I think if someone was to ask me now, if you died tomorrow, would you be happy? Like, would you be happy with kind of what you've done? I'll be like, I'll be okay with it. And I think people that are scared of death are people because they haven't took action on the things that they truly love and want to do.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's like, so if you were to die tomorrow, would you be happy with what you've accomplished or what you've done so far? You know?
I don't think I would be happy fully. I think I'm still finding my way in life. But what I think interesting is like in a lot of Western cultures, and I would say most Western culture, death is lamented.
What does that mean?
You know, and it's something that we cry about it, we, it's associated with feelings of disappointment, and that is natural. But actually, there's a lot of cultures around the world and a lot of, places where it's celebrated. Death is a celebration because it's like this person has lived a good life and let's celebrate it. And yearly, actually, I can't remember where it is. I think it's somewhere in Southeast Asia where they actually they dress up the dead as certain things.
Really?
Yeah. And even, in Mexico, the Day of the Dead celebrations, that's a celebration of the person's life, not a... let's cry about the fact that they're dead.
Yeah. I think I'd want that. I'd want a party.
Party, yeah.
Yeah, I'd want a party.
Do it before you go, like a wake, but you're,
Yeah, line up a good DJ or something.
Yeah.
Imagine. But like, honestly, when I'm at that age, I'd like to think like I've got bare grandkids or something just keeping me alive. Because I think that's what keeps people alive the longest, Like when I look at my grandparents, every day there's someone visiting them. That's why they're alive. Like, a lot of old people die from loneliness, bro.
100% heartbreak. You can actually, it's called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, right? It's actually, you can die of a broken heart.
What?
The amount of emotional stress that's caused by a big event, huge breakup with your loved one, a death in the family, a huge stressor in your life can actually break your heart in such a way that you have... heart issues and you can die. It's quite rare, but it's an actual thing.
Well, actually, like, for example, my dad always says this, right? My grandmother and my granddad's relationship, Turkish culture, the man brings the bread, the woman usually cooks and looks after the kids, especially in those village days, do you know what I mean? That's where they were raised, right? My dad was like, if your grandmother died first before your granddad wouldn't have survived very long.
Yeah. In Indian culture, so my grandfather passed away first before my grandmother, and it's almost lucky in kind of this Indian culture, in Hindu culture anyway, that the woman would want to go very soon after the husband because she doesn't want to be without him.
Okay.
It's kind of that...
Less purpose, less fulfilling.
Yeah, it's because they had this companionship, and it's like without them, they feel less whole. And like you said, loneliness is a big contributor to, death because, when you are at that age, there's a few things which keeps you alive. This is social interactions, keeping your brain active.
Yeah.
And if your brain is not active and you're not exercising, you don't have social interactions, you have a quicker route to passing away. It's going to increase your chance of mortality.
But I keep telling my mum, I'm like, Mum, get up, go for a walk.
Yeah.
She'll go for a walk, come back. She's got like puzzles at home. I'm like, keep doing the puzzles. Write every day. Read this book. And she's doing it. And I'm like, that's what's going to keep her alive longer.
100%.
And it's a simple thing, but it's that brain function that keeps you alive, right?
And you know what? We're focused so much, and all these wellness bros and podcast bros are focused on like, anti-aging. We need to live longer. We need to be immortal, and Neuralink and Elon Musk and all of these things, right?
Yeah.
We need to focus not just on lifespan, but health span, the quality of the life years that you have, not just the quantity. Like if you told me right now, you live up to the age of 120, but you have heart disease, dementia, multiple cancers, I'm like, no thanks. Give me my 70, 80 years, but I am right to my last day on my deathbed. I'm still running around with my grandkids. That's what I want.
100%. How much does, from what you've seen, how much does alcohol really like affect us? Like how much, is that like potentially I've always said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think alcohol is the worst thing you can put in your body.
Alcohol, there's nothing good. There is nothing good about alcohol.
Okay.
From a purely biological, physiological point of view, it is a toxin. It is a carcinogen. Alcohol increases your chances of various cancers, hepatocellular cancer, liver cancer, for example, increases the rate of liver disease. It can cause stomach irritation, increase the rate of acid reflux. At various body systems, it's not good. In small amounts, your body is able to metabolize it. Your liver can, do all the heavy lifting and secrete it. And when alcohol is broken down, it's broken down into something even more toxic, acetaldehyde, which causes all these hangover type symptoms. But ultimately, you can have 1 or 2 drinks a week and be perfectly healthy without any negligible difference between you and someone who's completely teetotal.
Yeah.
But it's only when we go into those moderate and severe drinking levels that you see all of these real massive differences between someone who drinks and someone who doesn't.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, alcohol is almost a part of life. They go out with friends, they socialize, they have a drink. Fine, you do whatever you need to do, but make sure every other facet in your life is optimized. I don't drink alcohol at all, and I haven't really had a drink, I would say, in about 3 or 4 years, pre-pandemic now. And I don't need one. I don't feel the need to drink. And whenever I drink, back in the days when I used to have 2 or 3 drinks on a night out, I would always have this brain fog and I'd feel sluggish. I don't need any of that in my life.
You can't afford to do that either, really.
Oh, hell no.
You're cutting someone open, bro.
I have been a medical student where I've gone on a night out and the next morning I'm in the anatomy lab, hungover, my head feeling heavy as hell, and I'm faced with a dead body and a liver and this formaldehyde smell, that preservation chemical, and I feel sick. Like I want to vomit inside the body.
Yeah, that would turn you off drinking anyway.
That would turn you off drinking, and you cannot be a high-functioning healthcare professional and, having any substance abuse. Yeah, right? You can't.
Because I always say to someone, like, listen, if you need to drink to have fun or need to drink for some sort of social interaction, I honestly think there's something wrong there, like what people need to address. Because the more that we're going on, everyone is constantly trying to fill in those gaps that we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation with something. And I think alcohol is such a big one that people overuse. Like,
mad.
There's people that I know that have a bottle of wine every evening. Like that's they bad. Work all day and then have a bottle of wine. And anyone that's listening to this and going through that, I'm not judging you for it. It's your life. Do what the hell you want. But at the end of the day, you can't expect anything really positive to come out of your life from that. You need to take action on creating some system or another habit, filling it up with another habit for more of a positive and a happy life. Because at the end of the day, majority of alcohol, tell me if I'm wrong, it brings you down, right? It's a depressant, right?
It's an absolute depressant in many ways. So, for example, a lot of people think that alcohol will help you sleep better. It's, so in it, it's a depressant. Yeah. So similar to sleeping pills, it literally, turns down the volume in your brain.
Yeah.
And also, if you're having alcohol before bed, it can affect your REM sleep. It's like your dreaming stage where you need that REM sleep for creativity and various other things. It's useful, and you're, missing that. So you wake up feeling not very refreshed.
Yeah.
You mentioned, some people who drink maybe a bottle of wine a day or whatever.
Yeah.
I am sometimes so shocked when I hear patients say they're like, I asked them, how much do you drink? They was like, 1 to 2 bottles a day. And I'm like, of what? Like, vodka. Like, what? That's actually crazy to me.
Yeah.
And the thing is, right, that your liver is powerful. It can take a lot of beating. But and if you chop out a big part of your liver, it can regrow. The liver has incredible regenerative capacity.
Oh, really?
If someone has like 10% of their liver remaining and they get like liver transplant, it can grow to full size within a very short space of time, within a few months, right? But when the liver regenerates and grows, it's not back to 100% perfect.
Okay.
It does it by fibrosis. So it's like kind of scarred up and not a bit knobbly and not the way it was before.
Injured from battle.
Kind of, yeah. So it's back and it'll help you survive, but it's not the same. It's like a veteran. It's scarred. And it's not going to give you the same function. So you don't abuse your liver. It's amazing. Like, it allows us to function and regenerate. And it does over 500 functions alone.
Really?
But don't abuse it.
Okay. No, I agree. I think and also it's a bit of a touchy subject with a lot of people because people instantly think they're being judged. And I think a lot of the time when people are like, well, hold on a second, don't judge me. It's almost like you're being kind of defensive there because you probably agree with what I'm saying. And I'm someone that has a drink, right? You've seen me at IFS. I was drunk a couple of nights, you know. But like, I didn't drink until I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
So I've got good discipline in. I don't need a drink.
Yeah.
Even last week, like I was somewhere where there was like social interaction, and I had like a beer, and I didn't even have half of it, and I put it down. And I was like, that's not going to do anything for me tomorrow. So let me just go, you know? And I feel like, I don't know why people are chasing the night all the time. I don't know why people are chasing the drink all the time.
Yeah.
It really doesn't end.
Doesn't end well.
It doesn't end well.
You know, how many times can you say that you didn't regret getting completely drunk at the end of the night? And, you know, the thing with alcohol is, you know, the one thing I wanted to say is like, you know, people always regret drinking and then they jump onto this really severe form of restriction. Like, for example, dry January, right? Restriction is proven if you're really restricting something in your life, like whether it's like a keto diet, you know, where you completely cut out carbs and all joy in your life, research has shown that you'll bounce back even worse.
Oh my days. Thank you.
You know?
I did a video about that. Send me that research, bruv, because people were sending me DMs about, no, Darren, research shows that dry January actually helps.
No. Dry January, the premise of it and the underlying concept is good. You want to cut down whatever.
Yeah.
But complete abstinence from something and complete restriction and avoidance of something actually encourages these kind of bad relationships with certain things. You know, like if someone is saying, okay, I'm going to go on this 500 calorie diet, they're going to bounce back a lot worse because they are demonizing things and they're going to build worse relationships with that thing. You need to fix your underlying behaviors. So instead of going from 20 units a week, go down to 10, then 5, then 1, then 0.
Yeah.
Go in a slow way that's sustainable. Don't just say, for this month, I'm not going to drink. And then from February, you're getting drunk every weekend again.
I'm so glad someone so much smarter than me has said this. I told you lot.
It's just habits. Willpower, all of this is neuroscience. Restriction is generally not good. Some people will see some good things from them. In certain cases, if someone is like addicted to certain heavy drugs and they're at risk of killing themselves if they didn't restrict completely in a rehabilitation setting, fine. Restriction and going cold turkey can be good. But, you know, if you just want to cut down on a certain thing, restriction can be counterintuitive, neurologically speaking.
So, like, the thing, why would you also cut something out that you really like? Like, you might really like it, which is fine. Yeah. Just bring it down a little bit. Bring it down. And people get praised a lot, right? You get these people that used to be alcoholics and this and that, and obviously do your thing, whatever, and I'm a recovered this and that, and now I don't drink any alcohol and this and that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, great. That's great. I'm very happy for you. I'm glad you did that. I always find it a little bit weird, and tell me, I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this, but like, I always get a little bit, I'm always like, why do these people get praised so much? I'm like, I understand that, like, you did something very inspiring. Well done. Like, I love that. It's very good. But sometimes I think, okay, what about me? I had the fucking discipline to not even get there. What? Show me some respect, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, like, I didn't need to cut out anything really in my life. I was disciplined enough, and maybe I was lucky from like a good upbringing, right? But I always find it weird that people sometimes, and I'm seeing this in social media and people, they almost over-exaggerate a very minor problem to be recognized that they're going through fucking shit, whatever it is, to then go, hi guys, I've just recovered from blah, 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 blah. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm just like,
I think, you know, what you see on social media is so exaggerated and distorted sometimes that I don't even believe half the things I see. Like, some people, I'm not saying everyone, and I'm not belittling anyone's trauma or personal experiences, but there have been instances where people have been caught out faking trauma. There was this, I think she got cancelled, but there was this mother online who was like faking crying over her like child's illness, that made up an illness for like views and stuff on social media, and I thought that was crazy.
Oh my God.
Things like that, and because there's this whole thing online where trauma sells. You've seen those videos, right, of like that nurse putting up like a recording of herself with like emotional music, text on screen, where she's like, and it's like music in the background, and the text says like, POV, you just lost a patient or something like that, and it's like, it's her like basically like fake crying or fake emoting in front of the camera and talking about some, deeply horrendous experience that she may or may not have gone through. I just think that's so weird. How can you set up a camera and then cry?
Bro, I really hold myself back from these things. Like, there's been so many occasions where I've like made a video, right, and I've sent it to like my manager.
Yeah,
and he's like, Darren, I wouldn't post that.
Easy.
I wouldn't post that. What if that person's going through like actual mental health issues or whatever?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, part of me is like, fuck that guy, because like. Yeah. He's giving, this is what's wrong with the world. Like, people like that are not being caught. If you're sad, embrace the sadness, bruv. I'm all about that. You should embrace. If you're in a fucking shit, like you're in a black hole, enjoy it, bro. Take it in, accept it, and that's how you move forward.
Yeah,
from
become
it,
like Bane.
Exactly, yeah, bro.
Bane it.
I was born in the dark.
Yeah.
But like, I find it really weird when people do those things, and you're like, but wait, hold on. If you are really like that, then how would you be capable to set a camera up? Good fucking lighting too.
Yeah. And picking the emotional music to back your...
Yeah. Let me
10 seconds.
Hans Zimmer from Interstellar. Go. Boom.
Yeah.
Bad boy tunes, bro.
So sick.
So sick, bro. It's the absolute
You
best.
just want to watch the video when that's there.
Yeah, I know, innit? Oh, trust me.
Well, music makes something, You can just like, when you're watching a movie, like, why was Interstellar so good? Like, I love Matthew McConaughey, but that soundtrack... Oof.
Did you know Hans Zimmer made that music without knowing what the scenes were?
Really? But he knew it was for like a sci-fi movie, though.
He knew it was like a space
time travel-ish movie.
Yeah, but Christopher Nolan didn't tell him much on purpose to see what he created.
I mean, Nolan's a genius.
Yeah.
And so is Hans Zimmer.
Yeah. Have you ever seen him live?
No, I haven't.
Bro.
I need to.
Mad. I went for my birthday. I got a gift from manager.
Where was it? Royal Albert Hall?
No, it was it was at the O2. Smith and Luke got me a box with my best friends.
Oh my God.
And it was unreal, bruv. It was mad.
I would love that. That is a concert I would love to go. The last concert I went was when I was like 13. I went to Groove Armada at the Brixton Academy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in the day. I hated it.
Really?
I remember back in the day when I was 13 years old, the highlight of that was the one song I knew of Groove Armada, Shaking That Ass. That one.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of their other tracks. And like one row just in front of me, there were like a lesbian couple making out. And when I was 13, I was like, and I told all my mates, I was like, look. And then, it was just like, great for us. We were just sad 13-year-olds.
Oh, my days. I would have been like, oh, they're kissing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we were sad. I was a 13-year-old. I was horny. I was in a boys' boarding school.
Oh,
you can imagine the pent up feelings then, bro.
My days.
I can tell you some stories about boarding school. Wild shit.
Is there a lot of bumming?
Yeah. I tell you what's really weird, right? Yeah. There's this weird thing that happens when, I don't know if it happens in 13-year-olds now, but when I was 13, 14 in boarding school, like there was this obsession with, like a brief obsession with like pretending to be like camp or gay sometimes, where like someone would be like working on like homework or something like that, right? And you just like go up behind their chair and go like, bam, and then like walk away or something like that. And it's weird. It's like people did that.
It must be like a curiosity thing.
I don't know.
It must be.
Because I think it's in Korea.
Yeah.
Like school children, they have this like little game where they like, have their fingers like that, and they poke their fingers up at their friends' bums. They go, bah! And then like, I don't know the phrase, but they kind of like, got ya! And like, they do that. And that's not them, being homosexual, but that's just like a kind of like a friendly game.
Yeah. They do stuff like that in Turkey as well. Sometimes you see guys like with like their arms in each other, like walking.
Yeah, see that in India. They're holding hands and walking and whatever.
Yeah. And it's like, they're like, men. Like, you know,
they're his friends.
You're like, what's going on? This doesn't, but maybe they're just really comfortable with their sexuality.
Very comfortable, yeah.
You know, it could be that.
There's this thing in Turkey, actually. I don't know if you know it. It's called, or maybe, I think it's in Iran as well, but I think it happens in Turkey. It's called like takandan.
Takandan,
where basically they crack their penis.
How?
Penis cracking.
How do they crack it?
So, you know, in your penis, you've got like these two cylinders called the corpora cavernosum, and they're surrounded by like a fibrous sheath called the tunica albuginea.
Yeah.
And that fibrous sheath, they crack it, so it tears slightly. And that's also what happens when you have a penile fracture.
Question.
Yeah.
Is that similar to the flesh you have in your ear or no? Because I can click my ear and it might sound like that.
No.
Wait, hold on. Let's try it. Wait.
That's cartilage.
Did you hear that?
Similar.
Oh,
I did hear that. That was loud.
That was loud, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know why? My older cousin used to grab me, like, Darren, come here. I was like, I was like, oh, that feels nice.
But no, this is like, just like cracking your knuckles, they crack their penis. And that's actually dangerous because it causes tears in the tunica albuginea, a little bit of bleeding, and it can result in erectile dysfunction. That's the kind of thing they do.
Tuna what?
Tunica albuginea.
That is mad. Is there anything else you can tell me about the penis?
About the penis? What did I tell you? Well, apparently back in the day, the hypothesis as to why penises are like the tip is mushroom shaped is so it can like scoop out the sperm of competitors from the female vagina. In fact, some animals still have like a barbed penis, so it can scoop out like any competition sperm.
Sharp.
Yeah.
Back in the day, like
because humans were not monogamous creatures, so there'd be multiple matings with different people.
Because in villages, they'll just all look after all the kids, right?
Yeah.
That's like the men would go hunt or whatever, and no one would know whose kid is who, right?
Monogamy is like a newer, well, I say newer, but it's not like I'm not saying it's invented 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but, we're talking tens of thousands of years ago. I'm not sure monogamy was what we think of it now.
Yeah. Oh, no. Things are definitely changing. And I think also it's a hard conversation to have with a lot of people, because a lot of people don't want to give their true opinion on it. And I think, because it might hurt their partners, innit? Like, it's a tough conversation, If you think about back in the day, would it have mattered or not compared to things now,
Yeah. I mean, listen, no one wants to believe that they're not the most important thing in your life. That's a hard feeling to accept with someone that, I want to have multiple relationships. And, it's a taboo thing. It's frowned upon now. But, you can argue in some senses it's against biology or at least your psychology, human psychology, this archaic psychology from our ancestors. It's against that biology. But, nowadays we form companionships and we want to be with that one person. So we're evolved in a different way. Psychologically and mentally, we've evolved to accept monogamy. And that is, in some cases, very good. It fosters that community. You can have children with that person. It's that security and long-term companionship.
For family, I think it's definitely important. Yeah. But the mad thing is, like, also, back in the day, there was none of this bullshit dating, innit? It was just like, bada boom, next one, do the thing in the
closest
village.
Person next to me. Okay, in my village, I've only got 3 females. Only one is my age. Yeah. That's my wife.
Every man, exactly. So whereas like, now it's just like, let's go to dinner. Let's go to this. 3 dates in. Shall I make the move?
Yeah, it's very long and drawn out, The whole dating thing.
Yeah, it's a bit long. I'm not going to lie. I always went in for the first date, bro. Always. Why waste time?
What was your success rate with that?
100. Success rate was pretty good, man. I've done well. I've done well. But yeah, I think just got to go for it. When you like someone, when you're attracted to someone, you just got to go for it. You know what I mean?
People like confidence as well.
Yeah. Oh, it might blow out sometimes where it doesn't work, but it's mad. It's almost like, say in jiu-jitsu, right? You shouldn't really go for a submission if you 100% got it. Like if you 100% know you're not getting it, like if you're 100% sure that you're getting that submission, then you go for it. Okay. If you're not 100% sure, you don't go for it. So I had that mentality with girls.
So you are 100% sure.
If I'm 100% sure, you go for the kill.
You got them in the crosshairs.
Yeah.
Pull it.
Yeah. But what's your take on like holistic stuff, healing?
I come from a culture where the natural stuff and that alternative medicine is a huge part of the whole culture and mindset. Like in India, Ayurvedic medicine is huge. And Ayurvedic medicine is one of the most ancient forms of traditional medicine. And when I tell you this, you might be shocked. Like the first nose job wasn't done 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, or even 200 years ago. It was invented by an ancient Indian practitioner called Sushruta, right? Who invented like nose jobs, rhinoplasty. Because back in the days in India, if someone committed a crime, their nose would be cut off.
Oh.
Right? As like, okay, that person, we know why his nose cut off because he's a criminal or whatever. So often he would use these people as almost guinea pigs, and he would reconstruct or give them a new nose by taking a flap of skin from their forehead and flipping it down to like reconstruct a new nose. And that was the first basis of the rhinoplasty, the nose job. And Ayurvedic medicine is a lot of the basis of what we see now. For example, those old gurus and saints used to meditate almost naked with maybe just like a little, towel wrapped around their waist on the foothills of the Himalaya. Cold exposure. That was done back then. You know, a lot of hallucinogenic agents, psilocybin, all these kind of things. A lot of stuff was done back then. And it's become more fashionable and popularized now by, Wim Hof or whatever.
Yeah.
So I come from that sort of culture where I do like some of that superstition, some of that alternative medicines.
Yeah.
But I'm also a realist in that I know that certain things require certain specific science-backed things. If you've got bowel cancer, you need to have surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, whatever.
Yeah.
And this is where things can go wrong. I'm all for these, non-traditional things to help with healing. I'm not talking crystals and things like that, but I'm talking like meditation and, other sort of things like yoga and all these things. I believe that there is a role for them in addition to the traditional stuff. Like, for example, Steve Jobs had this rare form of pancreatic cancer that was actually curable. You could have surgery to remove it. But he didn't want surgery. He refused surgery initially, and he went on all sorts of crazy juice diets and all these, hippie, trippy kind of things. And because he rejected traditional treatment for so long, I think several months to a year had gone by, his cancer had progressed to the point where actually then he realized he wasn't getting better and the cancer was spreading to his liver and all sorts of things.
It's too late.
He then wanted the traditional treatment, the surgery, but it was too late. It was inoperable. And sadly, he passed away. So choosing to go down that non-traditional route and delaying traditional treatments can be dangerous. But if you use the holistic things in addition to the traditional things, I think there is a good role for that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, actually. But I think the only way you can go like non-traditional way of sorting things out is if you've got a non-traditional way of living, I think. So like, if you're living in this world, then certain things are kind of made to adapt to fix those scenarios. So if you were someone, I guess, again, I keep referring to my dad's like village and stuff, is because that's probably been, every time I've gone there when I was younger, is how I saw people, like raw people, like I saw men, women, children, animals, mountains and all of that. Yeah. I feel like that sort of stuff worked there because they couldn't really travel to the towns to go see doctors and whatnot. Yeah. So they kind of had to deal with what they have. But their life was also very different. But if you're in the Western world and you're living like that, it's very hard to be very holistic, I guess. I mean, we're going from headphones, mics, cars, to, I don't know, using electronics, lights, whatever it is, to completely trying to now become like real holistic with everything and think you're going to fix it like that. Yeah. It's a hard one, isn't it? It's not going to really...
I mean, bro, you look at some of these countries around the world. I mean, there's been lots of studies done on these blue zones, certain places around the world, these hotspots in the world where there's certain populations of people who live long lives and often good quality lives without, significant disease or, death. And for example, an island off Greece, Ikaria, has a high percentage of people living into their 90s and, sometimes beyond 100. And, on that island, it's kind of cut off from the mainland. So there's not a lot of modern technology there. They're walking around. There's sheep there. A lot of them are farmers. Yeah. The lifestyles they're having, the food they're eating is whole foods. It's not processed, cheeses, fibers, all sorts of things. And so if you look at their lives, what are the things that they're having? They're having lots of social interactions. They have big family dinners all the time. They're walking a lot. They're getting a lot of exercise.
Yeah.
From a mental health point of view and emotional point of view, it's nicely regulated because they don't have these stresses of modern life, parking, traffic, bosses, emails, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And they're getting lots of fiber, lots of sunshine. They're sleeping well, probably because they don't have all these other distracting features like night lights and Netflix and all these kind of things.
Yep.
So all of these basics is just beautifully optimized for them, and they, live longer. It's not a secret. So we can't do that in our modern lives. We can't turn London into a Greek island.
No, you can't.
So, where it's like chalk and cheese. We can't do that.
Yeah.
But we can only try to optimize certain things to live longer.
I guess when you go to those countries, Greece, Turkey, Mediterranean, you can really see why people live longer.
Yeah.
Like you can see there's a reason you're like your face. I don't know. You've never traveled, have you? Like traveled?
Not like solo traveling around the world.
Like on your own, just
No.
take off for 3-4 months.
No.
I'm telling you now, bro, your face literally changes. What I mean by that is you see people, especially people that are in very stressed jobs and whatnot, they just take off and they completely relax. And I swear to God, you see it in pictures where not only the color of their face from their tan or whatever, their face is just more relaxed.
The muscles, everything.
The muscles are relaxed. You look into their eyes, you see more depth. You see more like, oh, wow. And I think that's why when people travel and they come back, almost more hipsterish.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going back to that corporate job or whatever, because I think you actually realize what life should be instead of, I guess, being in that rat race that I guess we're in it. Like we're in it, but I think we're lucky. Well, I think I'm more luckier than you in the sense of freedom where I can just take off.
That is something I'm jealous of for sure.
Is that something you want?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I knew what I was getting into when I signed up to this job. On day one, I knew that there'd be loads of sacrifices I need to make, not just from my social life, but also physical and mental health. I knew there was certain sacrifices I need to make. But this is the job I wanted to do. But now that I've been in the NHS and I've been a doctor for, almost 10 years now, I kind of feel that I want to do something else maybe in a few years' time. I want to travel. Between finishing my medical school finals and then becoming a doctor, I had like 2.5 months off. And one of those months I spent traveling around Thailand with one of my friends.
Nice.
And some people from medical school. And that was one of the most gratifying experiences I've had in my life, I would say.
Yeah.
I started off being like a classic tourist. Week 2, I was shopping and eating all my meals at the Tesco Lotus and 7-Eleven. And I was like, I picked up a few Thai words, and I was just like traveling here and there. Almost, I felt like a local. And I loved that kind of slow pace of life and just, it was different, and that made me think, I do aspire to this freedom one day, not just financial freedom, because to do that, you need a certain degree of financial freedom, but just freedom of modern life almost.
Mate, I think I'm actually mad excited for you for when you do get that, because someone as smart as you, I think there'll be so many things that you'd unlock in your mind, even more than you already have, that will blow your fucking mind away. You get these moments when you're away, when you're sitting on your own or with a friend and you're having you get into conversations that you probably wouldn't or have time to get into in where we are today. And you realize what's really important instead of what you think it is. And I think it's important for everyone to escape more and build a life where they have the luxury to escape more, to touch base with that, to really see what's important instead of keep chasing. And me personally, I'm doing my best right now to kind of stop chasing a little bit more and just enjoy like the present more and more, instead of, because in my head, I've always been, until this point, I'm always like, what's next? What are we going to do next? I need to do this. I need to do that. In my head now, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy what's been happening. Even me, myself, obviously nowhere like you as a doctor. I haven't really ever stopped since I started working in JD Sports at like 16, 17 years old. I've always chasing. I need something. I need to be able to buy a car. I need to be able to live somewhere nice. I want a business. I want to sit on a business class seat. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then you realize like, oh shit. Like we don't need much at all.
We don't need much
We don't need much. But I think it takes those moments to realize.
Yeah. You spoke about kind of unlocking that brain, and my mate won't mind me saying his name. He's actually I went to boarding school with him. One of my closest mates. He's a Turkish guy called Akay.
Okay, so yeah.
And he now lives in LA, and he's married, and he's in the kind of crypto world, and he's doing well for himself.
Yeah.
And I went out and saw him when I was in LA, back in 2021.
Yeah.
And we caught up after a couple of years of not seeing each other, and it was just back to old times, like we were in boarding school again. And we were talking about all sorts of things, and we got onto the subject of like psychedelics and and tripping and all these kind of things. And I was just telling him about some of the science of like psilocybin, LSD, and how it's becoming less taboo. And there's more and more clinical research showing that how these psychedelics and hallucinogenic agents can actually help with mental health conditions and things like that.
Yep.
And there's more and more research showing that, for example, there was a recent study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the best scientific journals, a trial looking at psilocybin, the same chemical found in magic mushrooms, how it can actually lower rates of depression and depressive thoughts. It's used for ketamine and PTSD, all sorts.
Yep.
So we're talking about that. And then when I went back to the UK, he then called me one day out of the blue, and he was like, I was on call, and he's like, have you got a moment to talk? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I've just had a life-changing experience. I've had a life-changing experience. And I was like, what have you done? And then he said he'd bought some LSD, all right? And just to confirm, I'm not condoning the use of any drugs or anything like that at all. I just,
I can also confirm, I have asked him, he's never ever done anything. And
I've never done any drugs, but this is just purely an anecdote from my life. Just want to make that clear so I don't get cancelled or lose my license.
NHS, if you're listening, I can clarify that.
Right. So he told me he'd bought some LSD, some tabs, and he'd taken them. And this is a point in life where there's a lot of things going wrong in his life. He just had some shoulder surgery. He was used to going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. He couldn't because he had this injury. He was recovering from that. He was... things going on in his life with his family. He had some disagreements with some family members that he needed to resolve. He took some LSD and he said he just went on this crazy 6 to 8 hour trip where he had processed all of these things going on in his life. He had reached out to that family member he was having some arguments with, sorted it out. He had unlocked this creativity in his brain to help him in his business and everything. It just made him so relaxed, and he felt he had a new lease of life. And I understand that because when I spoke to him earlier, I was talking about what are the potential kind of neuroprotective benefits on a neurological basis of these hallucinogenic agents. And, in certain ways, it can boost the number of synapses, the connections between neurons.
Yeah.
It can allow you to take, new routes in your brain. It unlocks new networks and new paths that your thoughts and ideas can take. So it unlocks new ideas for you. And, on the basis of some of the discussions we had, he tried this. And honestly, I felt jealous of listening to that. I was like, wow, I would love to have some sort of profound experience like that in my life.
It's a good time. It's a good time, bruv. I'm not going to lie. Last time I had a bit of a trip, I was in Australia. We went camping with some friends. And we're out in the nature for 2 days. No phones, no nothing, no connection. We're in between the Blue Mountains. We're in the Blue Mountains. And we're in nature and no phones, no electronics. We just had fire, meat, vegetables. And we were just like, there was axes. We were chopping up wood. We were like making fire, all this stuff, right? My testosterone definitely went up that day, bruv. And it was just like, oh my days, this is what it must have been like back in, I don't know when, where this was just it. And we were just having like just conversations and even things like, oh, when do we go to bed? When do we wake up? We're just like, oh, you go to bed when it's dark. You wake up when it's light.
Yeah. You're in sync with nature.
Yeah. And things just became more simple. And I was just like, oh my God, what a stress-free environment. Like if I was to stay here and had like my favorite people in the world and do things that I love, like you wouldn't need or seek anything else.
What you want, it's what you need.
And I think it's why it's also important to pull yourself away from like environments that constantly make you think that you have to be a certain way. You know what I mean? And what that does is, from my experience of like psilocybin, it really like chopped away my ego quite a bit. made me a bit more vulnerable, and helped me realize and helped me focus on what's actually important at times. Like it's almost like a recharge.
Yeah.
And then, well, when I first did it in 2021. And after that, I've been meditating since. Never meditated before. I didn't know where I could get to with meditation. And when I did mushrooms, I was like, oh, wow. Oh, okay. This is where I can get to. So when I'm sitting somewhere, even in the Uber, I just shut my eyes, just chill, bro. I'm just like, I try to get places with my mind. And since then, I've been focusing on health of my mind more than my body. And I've just noticed like the connection between both it's been way better.
Yeah, 100%.
Way better.
I mean, arguably more important than physical health in some capacity.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to, shun all this newer research coming out. But I will say it is still, a lot of it is in the research stage.
Yeah.
So, someone can't just go out there, get some ketamine, get some, psilocybin mushrooms, and then have an amazing trip, and then expect to have some profound changes in their brain, because there's lots of side effects with everything. We know that. So I think the advantage of all this research is it's becoming increasingly accepted and normalized in mainstream science, which means that the more scientific research we have on it, the more we can identify what works. What dosage do you need?
Yeah.
What is the delivery agent? Is it best
safe?
Is it safe? Is it best inhaled or ingested or whatever? And who is it more beneficial for? What conditions? And what is the long-term follow-up?
Yeah.
You can, listen, you can watch a Netflix documentary telling you about the powers of psychedelics and mushrooms and this, but that is not just, you can't just watch a Netflix and then become an expert on fungi.
That, and also like some people's lives are probably not equipped for it. Like, as in, I don't think it's great for everyone. I think you need to be in a certain maturity to be able to understand certain things, to like actually take it at the right time. Not like taking it on your way to a festival, listen to music.
Oh,
like,
no.
It's nothing like
completely
that.
Completely the wrong thing you need to do.
It's completely the wrong thing you need to do. And I think it just depends. And also expectations. When you're doing something like that, or with anything, I think people just need to really lower their expectations with any drastic changes. You just need to do stuff, take action on things, but really not expect much. You'll be less disappointed, and you'll be surprised on what you can find out by going into the unknown. It's like, it's a magical place to be, and it's a good time, bro.
You know what I would say?
It's a good time, bro.
It's like, for example, right? If someone is stressed and they listen to this podcast and they listen to us talking about psychedelics and hallucinogenic agents, and they think to solve all their woes, they need some mushrooms. That is not it.
No.
Like with all things, you need to start with the basics. How are you regulating your emotions and physical health with all the things you have available right now?
Yeah.
Are you exercising? Are you sleeping? Are you meditating? Or are you somehow, fostering a good mental health environment? Are you doing all of those things? And even in the studies that's looking at the use of psilocybin and all of these psychedelics, they often do it in patients who have refractory depression. So depression in which that all other medication and other treatment strategies have not worked.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the, treatment-resistant depression or whatever. And then they've given them one group the psilocybin, and it's shown to work.
Yeah.
We know right now people who have mental health conditions, there's loads of strategies that can work.
Loads.
Biological agents that you can give, medication, improving their social environment, their financial environment, physical health, all these other things. And it's only after all of that we look at these other external agents.
100%. You just need to, like, I guess, just go into a little search for yourself, innit? Like, go look at improving, look more internal, instead of external with everything. Before we finish up, I've got one. I've wrote this one down. I need to ask you this. I was like, what's your thoughts on the impact of hormone therapy on transgender individuals' performance in sport? So I know it's a mad one, but I actually want to understand more of when someone goes through that change, like the hormone therapy, how much is impacted, and how much is actually impacted, and is it, I guess, do you think it's fair?
I don't think it's my place to even question whether it's fair or not, but I will say, I mean, there is a clear advantage given when there's a transgender athlete goes into, the other, gender category. For example, if they're...
If I was to go for a change right now, if I was to go for like a change.
If you were to go through a change right now, you'll still have, higher than average testosterone levels for the category you go into.
Okay.
You'll likely have a different body composition with maybe more lean muscle. And you sort of muscle fibers are different. You've got a different proportion of muscle fibers, which might make you faster, stronger in certain ways.
Yeah.
You might be taller because men on average are taller than women.
Yeah.
So with all these kind of things come certain clear biological advantages in a sport capacity, for example, where in most sports you do need to be stronger, faster, all these sort of things.
Yeah.
So there is a clear advantage for someone competing in that way. In modern society, is it really fair for someone to question? I don't know. I mean, that's a whole can of worms. That's a whole podcast on its own.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If I was to go for a change right now, not that I've got any plans, by the way, but how long would the change take? Do you know?
So many years ago when I was a medical student, I did an attachment with a surgeon called his name was Mr. Bellringer. And he was a gender reassignment surgeon.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of that weird thing where someone is almost suited to their job. The name is suited to their job.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt, he's a sprinter.
Yeah. That's
Cool.
Yeah.
And that is a weird thing where some people, I think it's
like destined.
Whether it's a calling their name, but I don't know. Anyway, that was his name. And actually, I used to work for a surgeon called Dr. Death. But it was DE''ATH, Death, he said.
Okay.
But a lot of people used to see it, death.
Yeah.
Anyway. So there's a whole thing there's some tests you need to do first. You need to, psychological evaluation. You need to, live in the other gender or the one that you want to transition into for a certain amount of time. Without, as in almost like, you need to, if you want gender reassignment, you need to, be that, but without doing any of the surgery or any of the transitioning things.
So like mentally and being...
Yeah, and that's part of the psychological evaluation because, it's not like an easily reversible thing.
Yeah, of course.
You can't, easily transition from man to woman and then back to man. It's not very easy to do.
Doesn't just happen with like chopping off the piece.
Especially, if you have gender reassignment surgery, it becomes even harder to transition back if you have second thoughts. So there's a prolonged period of psychological evaluation, etc. you need to have. That is not my area of expertise, surgically or otherwise. So I don't know. I mean, obviously depends on the cocktail of different hormones and everything you take.
Yeah.
But there is obviously a limit because with current science, you can't implant a uterus into a man because biologically, anatomically, the male pelvis is not gynecoid. It's not wider like a female's pelvis.
Yeah.
There's certain hormones and, certain chemicals that wouldn't foster an environment in which you can grow a uterus and have a menstrual cycle as a man. So there is still, with current science, a limit into how much someone can transition into a woman, for example.
Okay. But there's women that can transition into a man, right? I'm only saying this because they form the penis in a certain way or something. Am I right?
Yeah, you can do certain cosmetic things to form a penis, but you can't then implant a prostate. You can't implant, the vas deferens, the spermatic tubes. You can't create sperm, male gametes inside a female body.
But can they still have like sex and come from it?
No.
Orgasm from it?
You won't
orgasm from it?
As far as my understanding, and now this may be limited because I'm not focused in this area, but
sorry if I'm just throwing you in a deep end.
You can't, create a male orgasm. Cosmetically and aesthetically, you can create sort of an artificial penis.
Yeah, okay.
Almost, grafting and all these sort of things. It's kind of part of the gender reassignment surgery, a lot of urological surgery involved as well, but you can't create that. And equally, there's certain things you can do. If you're a woman with breasts, you can do a mastectomy, remove the breasts, have testosterone treatment and other various hormones to, increase muscle mass, etc. But then there's always certain anatomical things.
Yeah.
With current science, it's not possible.
Okay, all right. Man, that stuff fascinates me a bit. I was like, how?
It's crazy.
So sorry if I threw you in a deep
Who
end.
thought about gender reassignment surgery in the first place? To think about that as a field, it's wild.
It is wild, right? It is. It is. And but you're right. That's a whole different pod. I might actually, if I bring someone in to talk about that stuff, I might bring you in as well. Be like, big man, help me.
Oh yeah, I'll
help
love
me
that.
with the language, because
there's a surgeon in India.
Yeah.
Who in Delhi, I think he is. He is aiming to be the first man in the world. He's aiming to be the first surgeon in the world to implant a uterus into a man transitioning into a woman. And his aim is to allow a man transition to a woman, so a transgender woman, to be able to give birth. That's his aim.
That is mad.
And that is
so
much controversy around that.
Bruv. And then imagine like, there's a million questions there. I can't even dive into that. Imagine if
it's been attempted before, but it's resulted in horrendous outcomes.
Okay.
People have died with this kind of uterus transplant from a woman to a man. We've done uterus transplants from woman to woman. It's been done, but not been done. You can't take a uterus from a woman and put it into a man. That's not been done successfully so far. And this guy is trying to do that. And let me tell you, I made a video about that. It divided the room.
Really?
It divided the room. Some of the contents were wild.
Clip that. I'm joking. That's all we got time for, bruv. I feel like we can talk for hours.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say thank you for coming on. And not that you'd need the bloody exposure, bruv, but like, where can people find you? Because number one, your content is great. Every time I watch your shit, I learn something. It's crazy fascinating. And have you got anything coming up that you want to share? Anything? Now's the time, brother.
Yeah, you can find me, Dr. Curran, on pretty much every platform: YouTube, Insta, TikTok, Facebook, even. I've got a secret project coming up in February. I'm going to announce it in February. It's something I've been working on for a very long time, and yeah, it's wild.
It's wild. He's going into hormone therapy.
I'm retraining as a gender reassignment surgeon.
He's going to be the first surgeon ever.
Yeah. I am the Indian surgeon. No, it's not me. It's not me.
Thank you for coming on, man. Really appreciate your time. Guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Share the clips, share the video. If you enjoyed this, please comment below with whoever you want as a guest, and I'll do my best to get them. And I'm so happy to be podcasting again. Peace and love. Take it easy. See ya. Thanks for coming on, bro. Thank you.